So some of the feedback we're getting there is that people who are coming along to this, whether you're NLP trained or not, because this is not specific for people who are neuro-linguistic programming trained, this is all about showing the ways that we use NLP skills for business and coaching. So who here is NLP trained? I always like to just check to see who's NLP trained. Lovely. Okay, so NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is the methodology of how we create behaviour. And those of us, hi Lisa, nice to see you. Those of us that work with NLP for business and coaching, it's all about how language impacts on behaviour. It's about how language impacts on motivation and how you can influence people and how you can change people's state to get them enthusiastic about things. So there's lots of ways. There's a lot of NLP training out there. There's a lot of NLP trainers. I've been working with neuro-linguistic programming for over 30 years, and I specialise specifically on working for business and coaching. Okay. Hi, Marco. Nice to see you. This lunchtime, what we do is 45 minutes. It's fast. We go through really fast. There's no handouts. You'll get the recording. The recording goes up onto YouTube. I just put myself talking. So unless you're actually participating, you won't come up on the YouTube recording. If you make sure you keep yourself on mute so that you don't accidentally come up on the recording, which is great. And I'm going to be taking you through a little bit about the VAK communication for presentation today. Then we'll have spent some time in the breakout room. Normally it's about 7 or 8 minutes we have in a breakout room. It's never long enough, but that's okay. Feel free to connect with each other. Feel free to contact each other. This is what this is all about. It's all about people just building a community and using NLP skills for business. Then I'll tell you about I've got a strategy session, a complementary strategy session that I offer. I'll tell you about that, and also about the NLP business club that we have also. Just to let you know, next Wednesday, we won't be here. I'm actually traveling to do some corporate training in Switzerland, which is lovely because it's a wee while since I've been doing some international traveling. But we'll be back the following Wednesday, and we're looking at the benefits of goal setting. So we're looking at that. Okay, so let me just get started. Just sharing my screen here. Okay, so VAK communication for presenting. We all know that most of you will be aware the only way that we can make sense of the world and can communicate with each other is through our senses. Through what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we smell, what we taste. So we're working with our senses. Without our senses, we cannot make sense of the world. According to the VAK, that's visual, auditory, kinesthetic communication model. Most people will possess a dominant or preferred learning style. However, some people will have a mix and an even balance of all three styles. Now, I like to make this very clear. In some NLP trainings, people will do a questionnaire to determine what their learning style is. I tend not to do that because we use all our senses, but we have preferred senses. For example, I've just been coaching one of my clients. I'm very fortunate. I do some work with some younger clients going through school, university. And this particular client is 16 and he's having real problems learning with outside noise. And I was watching his eyes. His eyes were side to side, which is indicating that he's auditory. It's a high auditory preference that he had at that point of time. And he's now working on minimizing external noise through things like noise-cancelling headphones and making sure he can soundproof his room as much as possible. He's also considering going to do some studying in the library because his learning style, the way he's learning, it really fits to have as less distraction as possible sound-wise, because that's stopping him thinking. So these are the little things that we get with the NLP skills that you can help your clients, you can help when you're working with people by identifying. But this is all about presentation today, using the VAK for presentation skills. So the VAK communication model is a tool that helps you understanding the overall personality, preference, and strengths of the people you work with. Now, when we present, who here has to present? Put your hand up if you have to present. Yeah, okay. People who are, especially when we're teaching presentation skills in business for people who don't know about neuro-linguistic programming skills. If you're presenting to an audience, let's just take my glasses off for this, and so you look at an audience member, and an audience member is doing that. That can be very off-putting for a presenter, because they can start to think, oh, I'm boring that person, or that person's not paying attention. Or this one. What you see when you see this, the eyes are going down. And we know from an NLP perspective, the eyes going down, someone is in their feelings. Now, when I present this to business leaders, they get quite shocked, because I would ask them, I know lots of us are NLP trained here, so we know that you know the answers. But when I say to someone, what would you think if an audience member is doing that? They would say they're bored, they're nervous, they don't want to pay attention, they're not connecting with me. Or if we say if someone's doing that, they're thinking about something else, they're not paying attention. What we tell them is, you could just have said something as a presenter to someone that they suddenly go, I could see that. So if they're visual, their eyes will go up, they've gone into their inside world, and they're creating pictures, maybe of how they can use just what you've been presenting, which means they've taken it on board. But from the outside, without this knowledge, you can think all sorts of things. You can be doing the old assuming you don't know what's happening. Or if someone's going that, you go, just by looking at it, instead of saying, oh, they're bored, they're not paying attention, they're not engaged, you can think, okay, I'm connecting with them on some level, they're going into their feelings. When you teach this, because we like to do this network in two ways. One, to maybe learn new skills. But for those of you who are NLP trained, to start using this and start teaching this to your clients, because we know about this. Lots of us who are NLP trained know about the visual, auditory, kinesthetic. We know the eyes move up to visual, the eyes move side to side with auditory, and they move down when they're in feelings. But people who don't know about this can be a brilliant revelation to, that's what's happening. So that helps the presenter start to feel more comfortable instead of assuming that their audience isn't paying attention. So when someone is looking up, they're in visual mode, they're seeing the situation, they're creating pictures. Now, they can be still pictures, they can be moving pictures, but someone has gone into visual, so it means that their visual cortex is switched on their brain, so they're responding to visual as well. So they learn and comprehend, through seeing something, drawing, and reading. So this is why we use slides, and I use my slides in a very specific way. I will always have some sort of picture, some visual, and I animate each paragraph in. There's lots of people who talk about presentations, say you should never have any text, or you should only have one word. That's okay, but for me, because I do lots of training, I know to keep the people that I'm working with engaged, I want them to be able to see, but also to be able to read and hear as well, because that's engaging all three senses. But you do it in no more than 3, maybe 4 lines in a slide, small paragraphs. You keep it very clear. So people who have high visual preferences often run movies in their head when remembering or storing in information. So if they're running movies, they will be taking in lots of what's going on. They'll be taking in the room, they'll look at your slide, they respond to videos, video clips, things that are moving, they respond to that. So the more you can have visually in your slides, the more you're connecting. When you're presenting to visual, you want to have slides, pictures, videos, diagrams, charts, and props. Never, ever, when you're presenting, put up a spreadsheet. Always translate anything that you're doing with numbers, any figures that you're giving, always make sure it's translated into charts, pie charts or bar charts or whatever. Make a picture of your numbers. Because if you make a picture of your numbers, we'll talk about the unspecified later in this, but making a picture of your numbers just helps people that are visual get that really quickly. Especially someone like myself. I have a problem with numbers. I cannot make numbers jump with me. If I say, I'll say something 68 and it's actually written down as 86. So put a spreadsheet up in me and I've got all this jumping about and I really can't make sense of it. So what you're doing there is you're putting, if you've got someone like me in the audience, you've put that person, your audience, into a state of confusion rather than working with what fits. If I can see a picture of numbers, I know exactly what's there. Remember, when you're presenting, it's not about you. It's about making the information that you're passing on as easy and as simple as possible for people to do, okay? And then you're also wanting, you have to give them something to look at. They have to see something. This engages the visual learners in your audience, making your content much more relatable and memorable. We talk about a picture is worth 1,000 words. So make sure when you're using your images relate to what's in the presentation as well. So you just don't look for random pictures. You're looking for something that's really relatable to what it is you're talking about. Then we've got the auditory eye access cues, the IQs. When someone is looking from side to side, they are taking in information in auditory mode and they're hearing the situation. Learns and comprehends through listening and speaking. People with high auditory preference take in information through sounds. Remembering may be like replaying a recording with original tone and words. Now, people who are processing in a high auditory, they are influenced by the tone of your voice. When we're speaking, in fact, let's do this. Let me do this exercise with you. I want you to hold your nose and I want you to say, "This is my nose." Take your voice to your nose. "This is my nose. This is my nose. This is my nose." Okay. Then take your voice to your mouth. "This is my mouth. This is my mouth. Nose. This is my mouth." Can you hear it? Then you put your hands here in your throat. Okay. This is my throat. This is my throat. Can you hear what's happening when I'm talking from my throat? Do I sound comfortable? Do I sound confident? No. What's happening when you're talking to your throat is your diaphragm has closed up. It's pushing your voice to your throat, and it's the voice that happens when someone is nervous. Someone who's a high auditory, they will be switched off completely from you as an expert if they hear you talking from your throat. This is my chest. Put your hand in your chest, and you should feel when you say "this is my chest," you should feel a little bit of resonance going on there. This is my chest. This is my chest. This is my chest. And then your stomach. This is my stomach. This is my stomach. When I talk from my stomach, people take me seriously. No. It's my voice of power. So when you're presenting, your voice is so important. And it's making sure that you don't get stuck or you don't let your clients get stuck in this horrible voice that happens. Because if you're up here and your voice is here, people are going to switch off from you. They're going to switch off, especially the high auditory. So when you've got auditory, it's not when you've got auditory, you've always got people who are high auditory in your audience. You have to create an auditory element, questions, chat, discussions. Now, what is really important for auditory is they need a logical thread. They need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You cannot do a random all over the place presentation. They will not follow you. They need a beginning, a middle, an end, or a first, second, third. There has to be an absolutely logical flow because they're linear thinkers. They need to know where you're taking them. They need to be signposted as to where you're taking them. And that way, once they've got that, they can relax. Okay, so this is the first bit, this is the second bit, or this is the beginning, this is the middle. Oh, we're coming to the end now. Very important for your auditory learners. Auditory learners will appreciate clear, articulated speech and compelling storytelling. They love you to share stories. They get totally wrapped up in stories. They get involved in stories. They will replay your stories in their head. And especially those of you who know about the Milton model, where we're working with quotes and metaphors, storytelling is one of the most powerful ways of passing on information to people. without any conscious resistance. It's a way of really helping people take in whatever it is you're wanting to teach them without them being conscious about it, because people remember the story and then they work out themselves the message that's in that story. So crafting good stories, and it's incredible what happens when you craft stories in a presentation. I've been doing presentation skills training in businesses for years, and we're working with the inside and the outside world of the presenter. So we're actually working to save what the presenter sees and what they hear and how they feel in their inside world, as well as what they're doing for presentation. But the minute someone starts to bring in their own stuff, their own stories that are relatable to something that they're talking about, especially a story that shows they had a challenge, how they felt about that challenge, going into the emotion and the state of how they felt about that challenge, moving through that to how they started to overcome the challenge, and moving with a state change as well to how they started overcoming, and ending up with where they got to. This is how all your highly motivated, has anyone ever been to one of these really big conferences where you've got super duper motivated speakers up in the audience, up on the stage, and you wonder why you're buying all their products? They're taking you through this incredible journey that they've started off. It's been really tough and they've gone through. So in business, being authentic, moving with different states, that really connects, especially with your high auditory. And then they respond to voice tone and can be switched. They can switch off from a shrill or nervous voice tone. And then we've got the kinesthetic IQs. When someone's looking down, they're in feeling mode and feeling the situation, learns and comprehends through hands-on activities, demonstrations, and interactive components that will keep them involved and excited. They need to do. Now, think about this lunchtime. What do we do in these lunches? Those of you who've been here before, what we do is we talk a little bit at the beginning, just for a few minutes at the beginning. Then I present with talking, but I show you slides. And then we go into breakout rooms. So we're putting in there, and then we come back from the breakout rooms, we have a little bit of a discussion. So we're covering all of these senses in one of these lunches. So anytime you're presenting, as long as you're bringing all of these senses into what it is you're doing, you'll get most people. They need to try something out themselves before they understand how to do it. Who here has to actually do something before they understand it? Put your hand up if you've got to do something. Yeah. Some people, a visual learner will read an instruction manual and can go, oh, I've got it. A kinesthetic learner will let me touch it, let me push, they cannot understand how something works until they've actually gone through the process themselves. So this is why breakout rooms and having a chance to practice things helps people learning. Create a kinesthetic element by having things that people can touch, hold, and feel. Now, if you're doing training, or you're doing a presentation where you've got a handout or a workbook, make sure it is high quality. Make sure it's high quality. It's got to feel good. It's got to feel really, if you want to be known as someone that's professional, you want to actually have things that people can touch. They've got to look good as well, but also they've got to feel good. Now, I know in this day and age, lots of us go with writable PDFs, but again, with that, you're still wanting people to see that it's all done with quality. Now, there's someone, can you just check if you're on mute or not? If you're not on mute, just put yourself on mute, because I can hear a wee noise there, okay? So include demonstrations and practical exercises to get your audience involved and excited about touching, feeling, experience what you want them to learn. The number of times we see in training, and we even see in this particular workshop that we do here, where maybe I'll be talking about something, then someone goes and tries something, and they actually say, oh, it's different when you try it. Because by trying it, you've got to actually think about it, you've got to do it yourself. And that's when you really start to get to know it, okay? And then we've got the last. Now, Magnus, can I just check, was that your hand went up before, or have you got something you want to share?
When you was talking about kinesthetic there, I want to share that I was in a situation with the CFO, who decided that the salesman should not be able to have the actual product with them. So when they visit customer, they couldn't show them. And the problem was that the customer couldn't feel them.
Uh-huh.
And when I told the CFO that 60% of our customers is buying the product if they can feel that there's a quality in it.
Yeah.
And then he have to change back to how it was before. So it's very powerful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because again, I was working with a manufacturing company and they had one product that was flying off the shelves because of the feel. They've introduced this new product and it was to do with light switches. But there was this new product that was so good that there was a really lovely click with it. Think about a lot of Apple products. Apple products sell on the sound they make, the feel they have, and obviously how they look. But you're right, Magnus, if you take away that element, if you take one element away, you're actually taking a lot from people, because people we talk about feel the quality. You can feel the quality of something. You can see the quality, but until you've actually got it in your hand, then it becomes much easier to gauge.
And in this specific case, it needs to be very balanced, because this was tools that was cutting in metal. And if you feel that it's unbalanced, then the result will be very poor.
Okay, so there was a real, it wasn't just a sort of aesthetic reason that it had to feel nice. It was really, that feel would tell you this is a quality product that will do the job it says it's going to do. Who's ever bought something that, just on it's interesting, Magnus, who's ever bought something that looks really nice and then they get it, maybe they bought it online and it feels horrible, it feels cheap and nasty? Yeah. Again, it's helping yourself, just helping your clients become aware of this. Okay, so let me just share again. And then we've got, this is the last element that gets missed a lot. Lots of people miss this. We have got unspecified. Unspecified are the elements that happen that have nothing to do that. If we're talking about unspecified words, we're talking about the words that people use that do not connect with people's senses. These tend to be the words for business. So if we're talking about a meeting, if we're talking about statistics, if we're talking about facts and figures, do they fit under our senses? No. But for business, they're very important. It's really important to have these. So by adding in, create an unspecified element by providing accurate facts, figures, charts, and diagrams. According to Social Science Research Network, 65% of people are visual learners. People retain 80% of what they see compared to 20% of what they read and only 10% of what they hear. And that's where that statistic came from. Okay, so that's an example of an unspecified slide. Always make sure if you are quoting anything, if you're quoting a research, you always put the information about the research there, because that's all, when you're going to facts and figures, people want to know where you got that. They want to know the authority that's behind that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to put you into breakout rooms. You're going into breakout rooms for 7 minutes. So we'll come out 5 past. And what I'd like you to do is just share. Remember, this is a networking event. Just share, speed networking, and share maybe how you're using VAK in presentations, or maybe discuss some of the things that you've learned that are different, that you maybe hadn't learned before from this presentation. Okay, so off you go, and we'll see you at 5 past. I'll close the rooms at 5 past. And I would like one person from each room to be prepared to maybe share a little bit about what you were doing in the room. So who wants to feedback? What did you get from that? Who wants to go first?
I can go ahead.
Okay, Paritosh, yes.
Right. Interesting discussion. I think all 3 of us shared our own preferences, learning, and what we did well and what we didn't do. This was one of the first things that we could notice. And we could relate with our work, what is we are comfortable with and how we are comfortable. We also narrated, or we also listened to the stories from each one of them, their own experiences. I also shared 1 or 2 stories from my experiences, that how there was supposed to be 4 training programs to a 20 leadership group, It so happened that the fourth group, my training didn't go well at all. In a sense that I delivered the same way, more or less. My engagement was the same, but the fourth group didn't work. I realized that in that particular group, out of 20 people, 17 people came high on AD. They were all
Yes.
operations manager.
Yes.
And I knew why things went wrong.
Yeah.
I
When you're
experienced
high
it
on the AD, again, it's the facts and figures. They want facts and figures. They want to get, they're talking to themselves, but they're very facts and figures driven. And as you said, operations. Just tell me
Right.
how it's doing. Tell me what's happening. We don't want the fluff. We don't want to know how we're feeling, how it's looking, how it's sounding. Just get to the facts. And that's interesting because very often we can have the same presentation. But again,
Right.
from an NLP perspective, when we can learn to calibrate our audience, you can actually change the same presentation. You can have the same slides, the same information, but how you deliver it changes to fit with your audience. Fantastic. That's a lot. And thank you for sharing that, because it's lovely to get real live business experiences.
And it was a very good contrasting analysis for me, because 3 batches went well,
yes,
but the fourth one flopped. So
and
I could see
so
what
that
was
makes
going
sense. So what happened there? Yeah. And this is where, for when people train in NLP for business, this is what's fantastic. We can break down when something doesn't go well,
Right.
and we can work out what's the reason it didn't go well. That's what your NLP skills give you. They give you the ability to break down the behavior, decode, if you like, the behavior, so you can figure out how something went well or didn't go well. Thank you. Who else? Who's the next person like to share how you were in the room? Hello, Sandeep. I didn't say hello to you earlier. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Who else wants to share? Who's next?
I don't mind going next.
Thanks, Lisa.
I think we were talking about what we do in our areas, and Jackie was giving us some great tips, me and Kate, because we were in the same group, same room, about like confidence with presentation skills. I think for me personally, though, I think one of the things that I'm learning is more about making sure you're catering for everyone within your presentations. Like you say, making sure they're visual, brief, you're not bombarding people with things they might not even understand, and concentrating on things like your tone and being aware of how you're presenting yourself. Yeah, and it's not always easy, is it? I think you probably think you're doing worse than what you are, as in when you're presenting and in your head you're like, oh my God, I hope this is going well. But yeah, I think for me, those points taken away.
And you're absolutely right. When I do the presentation skills training, we video people at the beginning, then we video at the end. And people get really shocked at their first video, how they feel they're doing really badly. But actually, it doesn't come across as bad as they think they're doing. We tend to overestimate how people are criticizing us. But most people, remember, presenting's not about you. People are not there for you. They're there to get the information that you're imparting when you're presenting. And just making sure there's a mix of all of these, because when you've got all of these together, that allows you to really, especially make sure the facts and figures are there. Pictures and short things that people can read, people connect with it. Fantastic. Who's next?
So whenever I talk in a group, because as I've told you that I always feel that I'm not catering the whole audience.
The thing is that what we have to do with this is no one is one. Always remember, nobody is just auditory digital. Mm-hmm. When you're catering for your whole audience, make sure you have a visual element, you have a bit of discussion, you actually get people to do something. We just did a breakout room there, and you're giving them facts and figures. When you're doing that, you will get everyone. Or not. Because some people might be there and they're not the least bit interested in what you're talking about. They've just been sent there and you're never going to get them. And that's also okay. Okay, thank you very much for that. But remember, not everyone, people are not auditory, visual, kinesthetic. I can't hammer this home strongly enough. It's the preference that they're maybe displaying at that point of time. Our preference changes in context and it changes in moods. So different moods can change what we pay attention to. Thank you very much for being here. Let me just share with you, if you're NLP trained and you would like to find out more about the NLP Business Circle Club, I've just put in the chat box, there's the link there. And the NLP Business Circle Club, sorry, that's the next one I need to go on to. The NLP Business Circle Club is for business professionals that are looking to enhance their skills for leadership and coaching, business and coaching. I've got a 50% discount. Normally it's $90 a month, and it's $45 at the moment a month. We have 2 live masterclasses every single month on the 2nd Tuesday and 4th Thursday from 12 till 2 UK time. But the bonus is that every single one of our members, they get discounts on all my training, but as well as that, you get access to all the archives from December 2020. So it's all the videos, all the audios, and all the workbooks of all the masterclasses. So in that link, you can scroll down and you'll see all the masterclasses topics that are there. Also, if you would like to maybe spend some time with me, I'm offering people a complimentary 45-minute strategy session to maybe discuss your business, maybe discuss if you're looking to be coached by me, or if you're interested in doing NLP training for business. But in that strategy session, we will spend part of that time working on what so if you just get something you would like me to help you through, come along. You can you actually contact me at fiona@theprofessionalgrowthcompany.com. I will send you an email with all the details of that, and it's complimentary. Make sure you use it with me and see if I can help you on something you've got to work with, and then I can let you know about everything else I do. Okay, but we've gone 2 minutes past. Anyone who wants to have a chat, I'll be here for about 5 or 10 minutes. So if you'd like to have a chat, that's great. If not, thank you very much. Remember, we're not here next week. I know that we've got some people here coming to the NLP Business Coach starting on Friday. So Jackie, Vladimira and Anne, looking forward to seeing you then. So we'll have another course that we're going through together. Fabulous. Just give yourselves a nice big round of applause. Thank you very much. And we'll see you on the 8th of November. And it's the benefit of goal setting. Okay, so we'll see you then. Thank you very much.